I call this meeting to order, the Tewksbury Conservation Commission meeting of April 20th, 2022. First items on the agenda are approval of minutes for December 15th, 2021 and January 5th, 2022. Any questions or comments on these?
I have none.
I'm good.
All right. Can I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I do have one question, I'm sorry. Were only 3 of us here for the January 5th meeting? Is that correct?
January 5th, I was there too.
I don't see your name on there.
Yeah, it's right on you via phone. I called into that meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was on the computer.
All right,
you were in the
that's it.
corner.
Yep, I was there. I was sickly that day.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 15th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Now I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of January 5th, 2022.
Yes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. First item, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Jason Chazaya at 110 Prospect Hill Drive, Assessor's Map 52, Lot 39. Is there anybody here for that? Could you please come up and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jason Keza. I live at 110 Prospect Hill Drive in Tewksbury.
Sorry for getting your name so wrong.
Oh, that's okay. I don't even know if I get it right.
Do you have anything to present?
No. Was I supposed to bring something or?
That's what I ask everybody.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Joe, do you have anything to fill us in on?
So this is a project at 110 Prospect Hill Drive. It's for the installation of a in-ground pool, patio, wall, and they're also pushing back their fence. So the pool is proposed to be about 80 feet from the wetlands at its closest, based off my field measurements. And that's the furthest distance for the patio and all that as well. And the fence, I believe, is being pushed back probably, do you know how?
13 feet, I think.
13 feet. So as I measured it in the field, the fence was about 62 feet away from the wetland line. So if the commission were to issue a negative determination of applicability, I would just suggest installing erosion and sediment controls around the area of construction.
Installing what was it?
They're erosion and sediment controls. It's like a silt fence or a straw wattle.
Okay.
They're construction best management practices.
Okay.
It's to prevent any loose soil during construction from flowing towards the wetlands.
Okay.
In addition to coordinating with me once they're installed, just to coordinate with me just to do an inspection and approve of how they're installed. If dewatering is necessary, having any water from the dewatering process being discharged at least 50 feet from the wetland line and as far away as practicable,
Okay.
and not being discharged into a catch basin would be
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Sure.
The dewatering should be filtered through an appropriately sized filter bag before being discharged. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna go home and Google dewatering.
Talk to your contractor, see if it's
Okay.
going to be necessary.
Sure.
And then all excess soil should be removed off-site. And temporary stockpile should be securely covered whenever not in use.
Okay.
I have no other comments, though.
Thanks, Joe.
Anybody on the commission have any questions or comments?
Looking at the plan, is that shed existing that's on your property? I just noticed it was drawn on the
It
plan
is,
set.
yeah.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if the fence was moving that shed as well. or-
No, the fence is behind it, and then it kind of L shapes in and across. We're gonna just make the whole fence
Gotcha.
level, I guess.
What was the design of the fence?
Right now, or it's gonna stay the same as it is
Okay.
now?
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
Gotcha.
6 feet high, square.
Any other questions or comments?
I have none.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody from the public who would like to get up and speak. Not seeing anybody, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to, I'm blanking, request for determination of applicability. It's the, what type of motion is it? To accept the?
Just to issue a negative determination?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, can I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Jason Kaza?
Yeah.
110 Prospect Hill Drive, Assessors Map 52, Lot 39.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman, with the recommendations from the Conservation Commission that he has to 1 through 4.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks. Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
All right. Unfortunately for you, Mr. Vice Chair, I'm going to recuse myself
All right.
from this one.
Next item is item B, request for a determination of applicability, John Coswell, 189 Vale Street, Assessors Map 112, Lot 27. Is anyone present for that? Come up. Please introduce yourself and your address for the record.
I'm John Cogswell, 189 Vale Street.
Do you have anything to present to the commission today?
I do. I will give a brief overview, probably the too long, didn't read version of the project narrative that's in front of you. Basically, I'm proposing to build a deck onto the front of an existing residential structure of my property. And this deck would be about 173 square feet, which is about 34 and a half feet long, roughly the width of this room, maybe a little shy of that, 5 feet deep. You'll see from some of the aerial views, the existing house structure and pre-existing deck is actually closer to a stream water resource on the west side of the property. And the proposed deck would be approximately 60 feet from the mean annual high water mark of that stream bank. Additionally, with walking the property with Mr. Fontaine, we identified some invasive species that we would like to remove and clean up as part of this project, as well as some debris often caused from upstream or being in close proximity to the roadway that we'd like to clean up out of that resource area. The entire project, the entire property exists within the 200-foot the 200-foot buffer zone of the riverfront area, and about 98% of the property is within the 100-foot inner riparian zone. So the entire area, 173 square feet, is included in that inner riparian zone. The actual change of degraded area is only about 0.14% of the property, where I'm actually going to take out impervious surfaces such as the paved walkway and an existing concrete front stoop. And the remaining area is pre-existing flower bed, which is part of it partly is maintained and partly unmaintained on one side of the stoop. I believe that covers the extent. I'll let Mr. Fontaine fill in the gaps.
Sure. So the proposed porch is about 60 feet away from the closest resource area, which is bank and mean annual high water of a perennial stream. So he's in the riverfront area, so that has its own implications. But part of this is whether the commission would consider a porch as an accessory structure. Based on our bylaw, it says that decks are considered exempt, but decks aren't really further defined in the bylaw. So this is, a roofed structure. So basically, if it is considered a deck of sorts, it would be considered an exempt activity under our bylaw and under the WPA. Regardless of whether it is considered a deck, just based off all the calculations that the applicant has presented, it complies with all the performance standards that it would have needed to comply with under the Wetland Protection Act if it weren't considered a deck and it was some other accessory structure. But I think nonetheless the commission would need to decide if it's considered a deck. I know we're getting into semantics, but
It's a porch, I consider it a deck.
I agree. Like you said, it's semantics at that point, so.
okay. So that would imply that it's considered an exempt activity under our bylaw.
Might I add just a little bit more? So again, thank you, Mr. Fontaine, for all your help through this process. In walking the property, also identified some sedimentation and erosion controls that we could implement as part of the project. Mr. Fontaine recommended straw wattles along the upper part of the stream bank, which I agree would be a good implementation, as well as silt fence and straw wattle along the edge of the pre-existing driveway between the stream and driveway. Between the project, and Mr. Fontaine would inspect that prior to any work beginning.
I don't even have to speak anymore.
Yeah, I figured I'd just say it.
Does anyone from the commission have any other comments?
I have no issues with this.
I'm good.
Since this is a public hearing, is there anyone from the public that would like to get up and speak? I see no one. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, is there any special stipulations that you want to put forth if we have a negative determination on this?
I would recommend the commission consider the straw wattles along the banks, or near the bank, not along the bank, but and then coordinating with me for the inspection.
And removal of invasive species?
The removal of the invasive species along the side of the bank there.
All right, can I get a motion for a negative determination of applicability for John Cosgrove, 189 Vale Street, with the order conditions described during this?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You see Dan?
No, I don't.
Oh, he went home.
I thought you went
He says, "You got it, Evan."
Not a big deal.
All right. Public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Brian and Kristen Harris, 45 Layton Lane, Assessors Map 79, Lot 55. Is there anybody here for that? Would you please introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening. Brian Harris, 45 Layton Lane. Reason I'm in front of the commission tonight is there's an existing deck in the back of the house. I'm looking to replace the deck flooring and the railing system and putting in new stair stringers to make sure they're in code. I know Joe's been out to the property with
Yep.
contractor, so he can probably fill in the rest of the committee.
So pretty straightforward. It was a deck. There's no previous records for it, but there's some deck repairs going on, and it's about 49 feet from nearby resource areas. So again, if the commission were to issue a negative determination, I would recommend the erosion and sediment controls around the area of construction, and then coordinating with me to inspect those erosion and sediment controls prior to beginning.
All right, any questions or comments from the commission?
So we're just replacing deck boards or repairing plus?
Just, yeah, replacing deck boards, the rails, and the contractor had said, we bought the house, the deck was already there. He said the stair stringers themselves are not in code. He wants to bring them into code as well. He views it more as maintenance, the contractor.
Well, we like code, right?
Yeah, and the existing structure's not changing, it's not being enlarged. The existing frame will stay in place.
So just a concrete pad at the base of the stairs?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Correct. And that would be the only disturbance, he said, if there is one.
Any other
No
questions or
questions.
comments?
I have none.
I'll open it up to the public for comment. Not seeing anybody. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability as discussed at this meeting for Brian and Kristen Harris, 45 Layton Lane, Assessors Map 79, Lot 55?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm assuming the contractor will know the standard erosion controls and
Yeah, I can coordinate with
you?
them.
Or-
Yep.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. And for agenda item D, that was continued due to a butter notification issues. So
All right.
just continuing to the next.
All right. Could I have a motion to continue public hearing request for determination of applicability, Jamie Trinidad, 185 South Street, Assessors Map 94, Lot 319, to the next meeting on May 11th, 2022?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes
Aye.
aye as well. And public hearing, request for determination of applicability, George and Lisa Brainport? Yeah. 334 South Street, Assessors Map 95, Lot 157. Thank you for introducing yourselves.
George and Lisa Branger, 334 South Street. We would like to put up a four-season room, which is 24 by 14, and an open deck that is 14 by 16. The open deck, the four-season room is within 75 feet from my neighbor's wetlands. So we'd be looking for a variance to be able to do that. Joe has come out to the property and has seen it.
Yep, so I was out at the property. It's a four-season room and a deck. I measured the closest wetland 72 feet away. So again, if the commission were to issue a negative determination, I would recommend the erosion and sediment controls, which is a straw wall.
Would that work?
Yes, yep. And then coordinating with me to approve of it and inspect it. And other than that, I don't have any other comments.
How close would you want that to the site? Or
Yeah, how would we know
where to put it?
where to put it?
I mean, so from the limit of work, you can probably place it 5 to 10 feet away from that. So it has like a little buffer of grass to.
Okay, so
That makes sense.
probably where the actual property line is from there. would be
Yeah,
fine.
I don't know where your property line
Yeah,
is,
it's
but
it's
yeah.
17 feet off the deck.
Okay.
And then it goes into my neighbor's yard there.
Okay.
So, okay.
Yep.
So I'll have just an idea of where to put it, that way if I call you,
Sure,
you can come
yeah,
back and see it and all that stuff. Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions.
I have none.
All right, I will open it up to the public. Not seeing anybody. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for George and Lisa Brangafort, 334 South Street, Assessors Map 95, Lot 157, as discussed at this meeting?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And request for certificate of compliance, AJM Development LLC on behalf of Arnie Martell, 15 Starbird Avenue, Assessors Map 58, Lot 169. Is there anybody here for that?
There should be, but
Should be.
we can table it if you'd like.
All right. Yes, we'll table that to the end of the meeting. All right. Continued. All right. Can I take these all at the same time? Just continue all of them to?
You might have to do them individually.
All right. Could I have a motion to continue public hearing notice of intent, DEP file number 305-1160 to the next meeting on May 11th, 2022? Could I have a motion to that effect?
Which one was this? This is the public hearing for Jonathan Nero?
Yes, of Beta Group.
I'll make that motion to continue.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion to continue public hearing, notice of intent, Matt Hammer on behalf of Richard Hupper, DP file number 305-1155 to the next meeting on May 11th, 2022?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion to continue the public hearing, notice of intent, civil design consultants on behalf of Arnie Martell, DEP file number 305-1157 to the next, to the meeting on April 6th, 2022?
No.
May 11th.
Yeah, that's from that one to this one.
Yeah. To, continue to May 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Now, agenda item J, violation notice, Tewksbury Department of Public Works, 999 Whipple Road, Assessors Map 30, Lot 26. Is there anybody here for that? Could you introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening, members of the board, commission. My name is Brian Gilbert. I'm the Director of Public Works. Just to kind of give you an overview, on April 11th, the DPW received a violation notice from Joe Fontaine, Tewksbury's conservation agent, for a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act and the town's wetland protection bylaw. More specifically, the DPW intruded into the 100-foot buffer, altering approximately 2,500 square feet of lands under the Commission's jurisdiction off Pond Street and behind the DPW yard, next to the dog pound or the dog pen. I'm not sure if you received a survey and a sort of a highlight of the various areas. Okay, good. So the disturbance within the 100-foot buffer is 2,500, and that is highlighted in green on your survey plan. Another 3,560 square feet is highlighted in blue, and that is under consideration and was not flagged originally as wetlands. So you know the property was surveyed in 2019, and wetlands were added in 2020 or 2021. It was early, probably 21 or late 2020. Yesterday, Mr. Fontaine, Steve Sears, who works for David Ross Associates, and I inspected the site. David Ross Associates is a civil engineering, surveying, and environmental consulting firm. We inspected locations where Mr. Fontaine found hydric soils to see if they met the definition of wetlands. Mr. Sears did not feel that these locations fall within the definition of provided Mr. Fontaine with a letter stating as such. I'm not sure if you received that letter. No? Okay. I received it myself today. At this time, we've installed silt fence on the southern side of the disturbance. And I guess the question would be, what was the purpose of the disturbance? Why did we go in there? And first and foremost, I want you to know that it is not and was never intended to be an access for the DPW onto Pond Street. That was never the intent at all. The intent was to expand the laydown area in the area where it was outside that 100-foot buffer and between that and the boundary of the DPW. Even if we had stayed out of the wetlands, the process taken was wrong. We should not have been out there, and we should have had greater communication with stakeholders, being the neighbors and the abutters, and conservation, just to let them know that we were out there. Moving forward, any projects outside the normal maintenance and routines of the department will be reviewed by either the town engineer or myself. If there are any questions concerning wetlands, we will bring them to your attention and get a hold of Joe. And for the most part, that's what I have for you.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
I think my question is, the violation notice, number one, said please develop a restoration plan. Are you saying you're not going to develop a restoration plan because you don't believe there's wetlands there?
No, I think there's a portion that's clearly wetlands that were in the boundary. That's the 2,500. And we have drafted a plan to spread a humic loam in that area and spray it with a meadow-type grass, just to get something down. The area that's not or hasn't been determined as yet to be wetland area would, actually, how do I say this? There are a couple of isolated areas where Joe found humic soils. That's what we went out with the Mr. Sears, to look at closer. If those are determined to be wetland, then the whole area then would be within that 100-foot buffer. If it's not, you should see all the trash we pulled out of there. We've already pulled a dumpster of trash out of there. Right now there's a dog sled back there. There's car seats. There's all kinds of things. So even outside that 100-foot buffer needs to be cleaned up, and it needs to be treated in such a way that we get cover back, some kind of ground cover similar to the meadow mix.
So are you working with Joe on that restoration plan right now? Have you contacted him about what you're planning on doing before you go and do it within the wetland?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have given something to Joe already. I think that if, again, if the area that is considered, or they're outside the existing 100-foot, is considered a wetland, then I would probably bring somebody in, third party, to say, okay, what's the plan? What do we do here? If it's restricted to that 2,500, for the most part, that was mostly backblading. There was some trees removed. We would replace trees, and again, we would put down a material that would vegetate.
So,
Well, I went out and I visited the site, and there is a lot of just trash. I mean, washing machine parts and I mean, I think that's the number one thing, is even if it isn't wetlands, or if it is wetlands, it's got to be cleaned up. It's a mess.
I think restricted access is, a sign doesn't seem to stop the dumping,
I know that's,
So that was in the plan as well. We, between the dog pound and the cell tower, there's, it looks like, the gravel there, that was an old road. And where I think staff probably erred was they took the path of least resistance. They came around that corner, and that's where we're trying to go, rather than swinging a little wider outside that 100-foot buffer. But there's still a lot of trash there, and I would be cleaning this up anyway. Cleaning up the trash, putting boulders between the dog pound and the cell tower, but with some input from the cell tower folks, because they have to maintain that, so they have to get their bucket truck up there. So we would choose a location that would restrict people going into toward the DPW. We have talked about a swing gate out at the street, but we would have to coordinate that again with the cell tower people.
Makes sense.
My comments for this are a few. So the area in question, so yes, the wetlands were delineated in 2020 or 2021, and that's the red buffer zone that you see there. So when I originally went out to the site, I poked around a little bit more, and I identified hydric soils where, if you see this, the tree removal detail below the blue here in the site plan that's provided, and also to the southwest. So based on that and what I saw, I thought it had the potential to be a wetland in two different isolated areas. So then a separate consultant came out and confirmed that it was also hydric soil, but didn't think that it had the vegetation or hydrology to be consistent with the definition of a wetland. So it was kind of splitting hairs. And we had just received that letter today, so which hasn't been provided to the commission yet. But I guess that's just something to think about, where it's just a difference of opinion. I can see where it would be considered not a wetland, but I would defer to either the commission to review the letter and make the call, but I think it could go either way. Regardless, it doesn't change the nature of the work. None of the work was in a wetland itself. I guess the only thing that would have implications on is like what would be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone that they wouldn't need to focus on as far as cleanup.
Can I just say we will?
Yeah.
I hope that's understood.
Yeah.
All right.
So as far as restoration plan goes, it's a decently sized area, and I don't know. I would defer to someone who knew how to restore that area. I don't know how much topsoil was taken off. It's a pretty sandy site, so I don't know what vegetation is going to take there for almost 3,000 square feet, or if you're going to restore the entire thing, that's over 5,000 square feet. So it would be up to the commission to decide, if you want to, if you think bringing a third party is necessary, or if you want to review a preliminary plan that they want to present first and see if that's sufficient, and then if it's not, require the third party consultant.
Yeah, should we review the letter that you received it today and forwarded it to Joe?
Actually, Joe received it and forwarded it to me.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think we should review that letter and then decide what the next steps should be?
I think we should review the letter, but we already know that you went into the wetlands to cut the trees down, so there is some, you can start preparing your restoration plan with Mr. Fontaine.
Should the restoration plan be through a third-party consultant?
I would give them the opportunity to come up with a restoration plan, so then if we don't like the restoration plan, then we'll get a third-party consultant.
Right.
That's all.
I just think, why bring in an outside vendor to burden the
Right.
taxpayers? I mean, I think they're quite capable of
I agree.
designing it.
I don't have anything else, I'm good.
All right. Anything else? No?
So why don't I do this? Let me take the approach that the 2,500 is within, we know that. And the 3,000, I could give you a plan this way and a plan that way, you know what I mean? They're gonna be very similar in nature. So why don't we do it that way? And then at least I'm prepared, you know?
I like that, makes sense.
Okay.
Do it once.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Do I need to do anything else, or I'll
no.
be back? I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, like, when do you meet next?
So we meet on May 11th.
May 11th.
So,
Okay.
so maybe by then have a rough draft of the restoration plan that we can review like a week or so ahead of time.
And I can provide that to you.
Yeah. Yep.
And we'll get a copy of that letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, and sorry I have to be
Thank
here
you.
to even go through this.
We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Violation notice, Tewksbury Community Development, 255 Livingston Street, Assessors Map 86, Lot 40. Is there anybody here for that?
Okay.
Hi,
Introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Vinnie Bormal. I'm Director of Grounds and Facilities for the town of Tewksbury. On April 11th, I was issued a violation of notice from Joe for unpermitted alterations at 255 Livingston Street for putting some riprap in as an erosion control in the area of wetlands there. I put it in because of, we were getting a lot of erosion from the new drain that we had put in. And I actually thought, I guess I was doing the right thing, where I guess I was doing the wrong thing. I mean, I thought the last meeting we went over that it really wasn't a wetland, it was a 100-year floodplain. And where we had put in the new drain system, we kept getting some erosion in that area. It kept washing away the embankment. So talking to the contractor and getting in there myself and looking, we figured we'd put a little bit of riprap in there just to keep the bankings back where they should be. And then we installed that, and like a week ago, Mr. Fontaine came down, took a look at it. He said everything looked decent. And there was one small area on the other side of the road that had always had water on it. It would probably get about 6 inches of water every time it would rain. And trying to do the right thing for the town of Tewksbury, I figured where all these kids were back and forth, I mean, it was just a mosquito magnet in the summer. I added a little bit of an area of riprap in that area to drain that area so we didn't get puddling in that area. And I guess I did the wrong thing. I mean, I would really like to try to leave this in place if possible. I mean, it's the best thing for that area, where it's really not a wetland. It's a 100-year floodplain. But I guess now that that the DEP is involved and everything else, what I would like to try to do is leave everything until the project is complete and have, you know, you guys maybe come down, take a look at it, have the state come down, take a look at it, and see if there's anything we might be able to leave there. If not, we'll have to take, you know, the riprap out and, you know, let the erosion continue to happen. I mean, it's something that really should be done. It wasn't in the original permit, but I think it's something that really, I mean, for the right of that area, to go in there and spend that kind of money, do half the area and not finish it complete the way that it should be done, is, I think it's right. I think it's wrong, a wrong thing to do. So I think, you know, if maybe we could leave it, look at it, you know, when the project's complete, and see what you guys think, and see what the state thinks.
Yeah, I mean, last meeting, we looked at the pictures, and I don't think there was a negative comment made about all of them, but then, you know, DEP has been involved and stuff, so.
I think in the end picture, it's just, you know, we're trying to all come together to do something for the community that, you know, is the right thing to do. And I just think this is the right thing to do.
Any questions or comments from the?
I think it looks good. I do too. I mean, I'm not having any issue with it because.
How are you gonna hold back dirt without something?
On a road, you know,
I mean-
I agree with you. Well, the key thing is the drainage now working?
The drainage works. Right now, it kind of looks like it doesn't work because it hasn't been laser graded and the new sod, which is going down next week. Once that's done, it will all drain to the actual, the catch basin.
Yeah.
To where it's supposed to drain to, right?
So right now, I have it plugged so there's no sediment or anything down there. So it kind of, when it rains, you know, the water stays around the catch basin for probably a day, but all that water drains without using the catch basin right now. Within a day, it all disappears and goes into the ground.
So I just want to say, like, on a surface level, yes, it does look good. It's certainly an improvement from the previous conditions. You know, looking at the photographs of what it previously was, it certainly looks better. But as the wetlands were flagged, you know, there's still a regulatory compliance part. And just because it looks good
Yeah.
visually doesn't mean that we can ignore the regulations in place. It still has to be addressed from a regulatory perspective, regardless of whether it looks good or not. And then, you know, if the commission ignores that, then there's, you know, certainly you got to do it. I mean, that's the right thing to do from a regulatory perspective as well.
So what are you suggesting? Taking the stone out and planting grass, or?
That
The other
would
thing we'd
be,
have to do is we'd have to take out that little area that I put the riprap in and just continue to, since I've been here for 6 years, it's just gonna be a big puddle there in the summertime, and it's have mosquitoes and have all kinds of things breeding in there, and it's just, in my mind, just not the right thing to do. I just, you know,
I guess I'm concerned about, like, if we were to keep it there, let you finish everything else, and then revisit this in a few months, is that just gonna cause more problems for you? Like, if the state
No,
says,
no,
no, you
because-
have to remove it regardless, is that gonna be
everything will
more difficult?
Everything will be complete. I mean, we can see how everything works, and if we have to bring it back to what it was, Mr. Fontaine can tell me, or the state can tell me that we have to bring it back to the way it was, and then everybody will know why it's like it is.
so the riprap is, it's just like any other project. It's like if any other contractor puts riprap down in a wetland, and they want to leave it there, we make them replicate it somewhere else. So it's in my conversations with, you know, DEP enforcement, I don't know if there's a strategy to keep it in place and then have replication elsewhere, and if that were the case, then we still have to have a plan for replication. We're still bound to regulations. is all I'm saying. And
Right, doing the right thing is a lot more difficult here.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I understand,
that's
the
really
right
what it
thing
comes
to
down
do,
to.
improving drainage and stuff, but we also have to do the right thing from a regulatory perspective.
But the biggest thing is really is the mosquitoes. When you have water sitting there,
Standing water
Right, it's a breeding ground and we have young children there.
So is the state coming out to look at it after it's all done?
No, they don't have plans to, but I could certainly coordinate and see if that could be a
I
possibility.
wouldn't get them involved if it didn't have to.
I would just go forward and leave the riprap there. I like it. We discussed that last,
But there's no like regulatory way to just leave it without replicating at least. You know?
Well, can they replicate on the other side of the garage over there?
I mean, what do we want to do? Do
I
we
know.
just want to open up one area, dig out a little area where that little stream is, just to make a 5 by 2 foot, 100 square feet?
Joe, is this something you could work with him and come up something that makes sense?
Yeah, I just need to do, like, I need to see what the strategies are. With my conversations with the state, they just didn't like the riprap in there at all. And so I can try to see if from a regulatory perspective, if it works to keep it in there as long as there's replacement. But it would still need to be permitted through
Right,
us.
right, understood, right.
As like
Yep.
at least an amended order of conditions, and someone else would need to prepare that and bring it forth to the commission and demonstrate compliance with the Wetland Protection Act and our bylaw. So the commission wants to do the right thing here too by, allow, like, doing what's right from a drainage perspective, but also upholding the regulations that we are here for.
But if we can replicate it, I mean, that's,
I think that's the first determination.
Yeah.
Figure out if you can replicate it
Yeah.
somewhere down there.
Your take, Evan? What are you thinking? This is a fine line?
Right.
I mean,
I
we're
would,
the
I would
Conservation Commission.
continue with
Our
that.
goal
Joe,
Come up
right.
with some type of
pretty much protect the
replication
wetlands
area.
that are in place
Work
in the
with
city,
Joe.
Obviously,
We'll figure it out.
have one
the
person
social
talking at a
aspect
time.
of the environment. So.
Right.
How much what's the replication requirement? Is it like a 4-to-1 or 1-to-1?
So 1-to-1 by the state.
So could we potentially does it have to be on the same site they have to do the replication?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that throws a wrench into it.
I just think it makes more sense for the safety of
Of the
all
kids, I
that
agree
play
with
in that area.
Yeah, you're not going to find an argument against that. It's just that, we're bound by, the regulations.
Well, I say we table it and see if we can't work something out.
Yeah, I think that's the first, plan is, let's
Joe,
see.
can they
what-
submit like a revised NOI or an NOI after the fact they've already built it? Or at this point, is it too late to do any of that?
You can submit,
Substantial change.
Everything that's down there that's already built was proposed on a plan anyway. The only thing
Not
we'd have
this
to do
riprap.
is, the only thing we'd have to do is take the riprap out.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is there a way to revise the application process to include this riprap and see if it will be approved at that point?
yeah, so anything that is allowed by the commission to permanently stay would need the amended order of conditions and there's a whole other public hearing process and all that. But anything that's being like mitigated and the commission is just saying, no, this isn't allowed, that's just managed under an enforcement order. And then there's also this is just a separate thing, but there's just some, the fill here, but it was where you see this roadway. But that's, it was just brought down to its original grade, but just a comment for the commission.
But the road's always been there.
Yeah, so just letting you know. But yeah, I think it was just pretty stark language that I was receiving that to remove it. But I can see if there's a way where the commission can leave it in place, while still complying with the WPA. Because if it's to be left in place, whatever wetlands are are permanently altered would need to be replaced
Yep.
elsewhere, just like any other project.
So we can't look the other way, but we want to apply some common sense too. You know,
Very difficult to do.
you know, it's a fine line, yeah.
I mean, the whole point of the WPA is that the reason this is created is because people would just go and destroy wetlands and do the right thing, which at the end of the day was harming the environment. So we're looking at more from a human perspective and non-environmental perspective.
Right.
So kind of, you have to have a balance between the two in some situations too. So we want to work with you, but we have to figure out the regulatory compliance in doing
It's
that.
also a park, and it's, recreation.
Yeah, it's
That's the socio-environmental kind of balance that's going on between the two.
That's the X factor, right? All right. So the recommendation is table it?
I think Joe is going to circle back with DEP, try to figure out if there's a way to do a revision to the NOI, substantial change, anything like that. See if we can leave this in with getting DEP's approval, I think, in a sense, and what that would take, and if you would agree to do the replication somewhere else, if that's what it came
And
to.
I also think that once the wetland seeds that are in there start to take root and everything else, it's gonna look completely different also. It's, it's not gonna look as open as it is now. It'll all fill back in, and I think that will make a big difference also, so.
This is currently a violation notice, but it was, it's going to be an enforcement, or I guess I was planning to do an enforcement order, because that's normally how it's. So,
All right.
all right, that sounds like a
So-
plan for now.
Don't seem too excited. All right, thank you, and I guess if these violation notices, let's keep the communication flowing, and just
Yeah,
anytime you think
exactly.
anything might be, wetlands, call Joe, and like,
I definitely will.
yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. All right.
I think Fraser and you guys, yeah.
Yeah. Agenda item F, request for a certificate of compliance, AJM Development LLC on behalf of Arnie Martell, 15 Starbird Avenue, Assessors Map 58, Lot 169. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Sorry I'm late. You guys went right through that agenda. I thought I had plenty of time. Dick Cuco from Woodland Design, representing the applicant. We have requests for a certificate of compliance, and Joe was out onto the site the other day, and we had removed some debris. And then I spoke to him today, and there's a couple of other little areas in there that he wants us to take care of, which we are, half the world is on vacation this week because it's like Christmas time. So when our engineer gets back on Monday, we'll see what we can do to address that issue that Joe brought up today. But what we wanted to talk to the commission about this evening is that the original order condition said that the open space should be deeded over to the town through the Conservation Commission, which we're happy to do. Our attorney is on vacation this week also. But if the program that we have, as we've kind of laid it out, was to see if the commission is willing to take that land, and then we will have our attorney, when she gets back on Monday, draft the deeds up, bring them in. Joe tells me that if you folks decide to accept that land, then it goes to the select board and they have to endorse it. It doesn't have to go to town meeting anymore, but it has to go through that process. So that's where we're at. So we would like to see if the commission would vote to at least on that portion to see if they're willing to accept that. And then we can work our way through the punch list items that Joe brought up today. And we have one pending sale. So what I will do is file a separate WPA 8 form for that one, Joe? Yeah, so I'll file a separate form for a partial release on that one lot, because by the time it goes through the select board and town council reviews the deeds and everything, that might take a little while longer, but at least we'll know this way that if you folks are willing to accept that as was in the order, and then we'll keep moving forward.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, so I went out to the site. There's 2 conditions for the order. One was picking up trash in the wetland area, and the second one was deeding over the open space. So I went out to the wetland area, I went out to the site, inspected the wetland area. There was still some trash. So right away, Mr. Martell got his guys to pick up whatever they can, and I went out there today, and it looks really good. So and I can present some photos for the next meeting, but it looks really good. And then we would still need the open space to be deeded to the town in order for them to actually be compliant with the order. So if there's a lot that's like a pending sale, then a partial certificate of compliance would be, I think, satisfactory for just one lot. But other than that, I don't have any other comments. For the open space, the deed still needs to be drafted, correct?
Yeah, I drafted it, but it needs to be done by an attorney.
Okay, so yeah, the deed still needs to be drafted, and then that goes to the select board. But the commission would also need to vote to accept the open space.
Has the DPW reviewed the area? The reason I asked that if there's any falling trees or anything else, I mean, you don't want to get into something that,
Now, as far as the issues we have with DPW, none of them have to do with conservation.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it's because the order says to deed it to the commission, that was already like addressed when it was
Okay.
granted. And I've already talked to the assistant town manager on, whether we should actually accept it for that reason. So if it's deeded to us, I guess accept it.
Yeah, Mr. Holland, what happened on this one is, for some reason, usually that deed is drafted right away and it's put in escrow with, when Charles Rules was here, we used to send it to him and he'd hold it in escrow. That didn't happen, but the developer still owns it, so he can deed it to the town. And then there's some language that they put in. I'm using Robbie Terrace Way as an example. It says it's deeded to the inhabitants of the town of Tewksbury, and then it cites a certain statute that says under the control of the Conservation Commission. So the town couldn't, let's say, 10 years from now, sell it because it's under the control of the commission, because the commission can't technically own the land, but they can be the steward of it. And that's what the intent of the deed will say. It's that it's deeded to the inhabitants, but it's under the stewardship of the Conservation Commission.
Understood.
So nothing can be done without your consent. So at least if we know that, then I can get the attorney going on the deed.
What type of trash was in the wetlands? Was it like rubbish, or was it like, washers and, somebody dumped it there?
So the orders specify like removing trash via hand removal. So they took out whatever they could get with their hands.
All right.
So it's not like they took like a excavator or anything to remove some of the trash. But yeah, it was relatively small. And the only other comment I had is going out there today, it looks like some of the drainage spills over the berm and just goes directly into the wetland area. So I would, before would receive a certificate of compliance, I would imagine that would need to be bermed up again.
Yeah, so that's why I want to meet with our engineer to find out what the intent was originally. I think what happened is some of the landowners are landscaping beyond what they're supposed to be landscaping on, and they put that mulch in there, and it's supposed to be grass, and it's supposed to be humped up to keep the water from spilling off. So, but I want our design engineer to go out and look at it and see what was intended to be done, and then we'll address that before we come for the full certificate. But in the meantime, we want to get a readout on the open space, and we'll probably file for a partial release. And once we correct that issue that Joe's talking about, we'll come in for the full release.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I'm good. Good.
So,
It's just continued.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't know if you want to take a straw poll to see if, because I don't want to go through drafting a deed if the commission says, no, we don't want to take the land.
I don't have a problem with it.
yeah, if the understanding is that the commission that originally approved was okay with this, then I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be
Okay.
okay with it.
All right, so we'll take care of that then. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion to continue this request for a certificate of compliance, AJM Development LLC on behalf of Barney Martell, 15 Starbird Avenue, Assessors Map 58, Lot 169, to the next meeting on May 11th, 2022?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
Thank you very much.
See you then.
Thanks.
All right. Old business, new business.
So, one item for new business, or I guess there's two, but one of them is a discussion on accessory structures for when the commission approves a single-family home. So, a lot of times the consultants will just present like a gray rectangle on a site plan as the proposed home. And then oftentimes during construction, they tack on like a deck that's within the buffer zone or another accessory structure. So, you know, it seems like if the commission was okay with permitting a house, then tacking on a deck is kind of like, or a similar accessory structure is kind of implied. Something like a pool, maybe not.
I guess how
but-
far it goes into the zone. Is
Usually
it
if somebody's-
50, 25 too?
If somebody's building a house, we have the plans. And the deck, it shows the deck, it shows the pool, shows the shed. You know what I mean?
This
Well,
goes on the
basically-
same thing as the riprap. They
Yeah.
submitted a plan and they kind of modified it
Right.
slightly. It
I mean,
would be
normally
good
should
to
have the dimensions on the proposed
Right.
structure, correct? And that should be inclusive of all,
I don't remember ever approving a new home and they're not showing the deck or anything. They usually show it all.
you agree, Dennis? It's normally inclusive, isn't it?
Well, I think this is more for subdivisions, where like, for
Somebody
a
buys a house
single-family
and wants an
home.
add-on. That's
What's
like,
that?
someone buys a house and wants an add-on while it's still being built.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas a single-family home, they already have like a vision of what they want, you know what I'm saying? What?
How would we know?
I get a building permit.
Okay, so if you notice anything different, I guess, yeah,
Okay,
I would just note it.
okay.
And if it's substantial, bring it to the commission.
So including decks. So just anything different? So bring it to the commission?
I would say so. I mean, it's going to probably fall under the exemption for the most part
Yeah.
for a deck like that, but it'd be worth at least noting for our record.
So, for example, if there were a
I feel like you have an example right now.
generic example, if there were a single-family home that wanted to now build a deck and it was not originally on the plans, but it's within the no-build zone, but it would fall that 10%,
Right.
bring it to the commission.
Well, if it's under the 10%, you know, if somebody has 5,000 square feet and they're building a 100 square foot deck, I think that would automatically just flow right through. You know what I mean? If it's 5,000 square feet in the 50-foot no-build zone and the guy's
no
building a
voting
100 square foot deck, it's well under the 10%. If it's under the 10%, I don't even think they have to appear before us.
Wouldn't it be the case for any deck being built, that they don't have to appear before us? Are you saying because it went to the
Well,
commission
according to
beforehand?
his scenario there, if it's within the 10%, because in a no-build zone, it's our preference, we can allow up to 10% intrusion into the no-build zone.
We can allow, right?
Right. We don't have to
we
allow.
We have to vote on it, though.
Right, we have to vote on it, you know? Because sometimes you'll have the 10% where here's the river, and they want the 10% right next to the river, and you don't want that. You want it to be kind of spread out evenly, you know what I mean?
So you're in favor of it coming to the commission then, right?
What's that?
You're in favor of these coming to the commission?
Well, they have been coming
based on
in the
that.
past, I don't know why they wouldn't come in the future, but like I said, just for expedience sake, usually if you're under the 10% and it's reasonable, I think you could use your own judgment on that. That turns around and says, well, here's the house, I'm putting my deck here, the wetland's over here, this is within the 50-foot build zone, it's under 10%, good to go.
My judgment would be if it's a non-exempt activity, I would bring it to the commission. If it's not already on the plan.
Right.
Unless you guys are saying, yeah, that would be my judgment going forward, is if it's a non-exempt activity and if it's not originally approved on the site plan, I would treat it just like any other deck. I guess that's how I would treat it, like any other deck, is basically it. Alrighty. The other new item is.
We have a deck coming next meeting.
Yeah. So this is a cleanup. Actually, yeah, sure.
We'll get pictures.
So this is a pretty extensive, like, sampling plan for a property on Shawshene Street. So this is like there's elevated levels of probably petroleum on this property and in the wetland. So technically, this does fall as an exemption because it's like a negligible activity that doesn't cause disturbance, and it's for assessment purposes, which is it's exempt under the bylaw and the Wetland Protection Act. They did do some sediment samples in the wetland, but that was just done via hand auger. So, I mean, that's just like essentially the same effect as a wetland delineation. My thought is that it is exempt, but, you know, if they do any sort of like excavation, it should be before the commission, but any, like, drill rig, or if they're just doing test pits, then.
And you said it's petroleum that was found?
Yeah, I believe so.
Are they looking to see if any mitigation efforts have to be taken on the land? Is that what they're trying to see, or if it's contaminated soil? Or?
They're probably trying to sell the property, I would imagine, and they need to, or, you know, refinance a business, and the bank wants to make sure they're not refinancing on a contaminated property, probably.
Okay.
But that is all. Just letting you guys know.
Okay.
I think that's it.
That's it? All right. Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.